On the morning of her discharge, a nurse came in to help Chastity get dressed. She suffered the nurse's ministrations patiently and smiled. After signing her discharge papers, Chas waited patiently for Devlin to pick her up. He'd called to let her know that he'd been getting his house ready for her. Welcome back, friends. I hope you are well. Super thanks for my new subscribers. Now let's get back to the story. Chastity had deliberately kept her eyes averted. She didn't want to see her reflection in the mirror, but out of curiosity, she looked. There was a big purple bruise on the left side of her face that the bandage did nothing to hide. Devlin lied when he said that she looked much better. Outside the hospital, he helped her sit in the passenger seat and strapped her in. She wanted to protest, but thought better of it. Debbie wasn't able to get what she needed, so they stopped at her apartment. Efficient in all things, Chas gathered what she thought she'd need. She sat at her dressing table to examine her face. She gingerly pulled off the bandage. Big fat tears streamed down her face. Devlin watched her and smiled lamely. "Don't cry, Chas. It's going to be all right." She sobbed loudly then. "Devlin, look at my face. It's all swollen and red and purple. I did this to myself by being stubborn. I could have gone to the doctor sooner, but I was so sure I had it all under control." Devlin knelt down beside her. "I'm not going to lie to you. You do look awful, and crying isn't going to help it. See, now you've got red eyes too." Chas chuckled tearfully. "I suppose you're right. Come on, let's go." The medicine was wearing off, and she winced over every bump during the ride to Devlin's house. As soon as they arrived, Chas rushed to the kitchen to take her meds. Her head was splitting, and she felt nauseous. Devlin went to put her bag in one of the guest rooms. "Would you like to lie down for a while? I put your stuff in the room closest to mine," he offered. "Yeah, just for a little bit, thanks." She followed him up, and he watched her unpack her bag and lay out a nightgown. He smiled and simply turned around to give her privacy to undress. "You can turn around now," she announced. Devlin suppressed a smile when he turned around. Not only was dressed, but she was also in bed with the covers chastely up to her waist. "I'll let you get some rest. In about an hour, I'll bring you up something to eat," he told her and left the room. Devlin went downstairs whistling. He was definitely in a good mood. This was going to be torture, but he was going to take care of her. The medicine soon took effect, and Chas fell into a drugged but painless sleep. Her last thought was her hope to recuperate soon. True to his word, Devlin brought up a tray with soup and sandwiches for Chas. He brought 2 bowls and was content to eat with her. He stayed silent, but she could tell that he was vigilant. "This was the best meal I've had in days," she exclaimed. "I know you had to work today, thank you." "Being the boss helps," he said simply. "Yeah, well, it was nice of you just the same. I'm sure you would have done the same for me if the situation warranted." "I think I'll call the center to see how things are going," Chas said as she reached for her phone on the nightstand. Devlin nodded and left her to it. Minutes later, she made her way downstairs. Devlin was sitting in his home office on the phone. He ended his call abruptly and turned his full attention to her. "Is everything all right?" "Yes, I'm sort of disappointed that the club can run without me," she said dejectedly. "That's your management skills at work. You've got great people working for you." She nodded and sighed. "I'm just bored. There's nothing to do." Devlin stood up from his desk and walked over to where she was standing. "If you're really good, I'll let you take a walk tomorrow. Since moving to this neighborhood, I haven't had a chance to explore it yet. We could do that together." Before Chas could stop herself, she reached out to touch his face gently and reached up to place a kiss on his cheek. "Thank you." Devlin froze. He stood very still, and then he took her arm and led her back up the stairs. "You've only just come out of the hospital. You need your rest." He left her in the middle of the room and practically ran down the stairs. Did she know that gown thing she was wearing left nothing to the imagination? Chas was about to get in bed when she spied the tray. She picked it up and brought it down to the kitchen. Devlin was standing by the fireplace studying the painting they'd picked out together when he first moved in. "Do you mind if I stay down here for a bit? I don't think I could sleep anymore." Devlin turned to her with a no-nonsense expression on his face. "Chas, you really ought to go back up to bed. Your doctor's instructions were to rest today and tomorrow, and to take it easy after that. I won't have you up and about before then, so go on back upstairs," he ordered. He stayed where he was and didn't plan on going anywhere near her. She looked ready for battle and her eyes were bright, and she had loosened her hair. She wasn't wearing a robe. "Go to bed, Chaz," he ordered again. "I'm not tired, and I'd like for you to stop treating me like a child," she replied. She sat down on the couch and patted the cushion beside her. "Why don't we just talk?" Devlin walked over to her like a prisoner walking to the guillotine. "What do you want to talk about?" "I want to talk about what happened the last time I was here. I know I hurt you, and I know that I've been difficult, and I want you to know that I'm really sorry." "Chess, I don't think you know what you want. If we're going to talk about this, you need to understand that being intimate isn't an assurance of love. It's just another way of expressing it. I am not in the mood to play games with you, so you march yourself back upstairs and get the rest the doctor says you need." He tugged his hand from hers and glared at her. Without giving it a second thought, she got up and settled herself in his lap, straddling him. She slid her arms around his neck and leaned down to give him a little peck on the lips. She smiled. "I assure you, Devlin Wade, that I am in no mood to play games either," she told him. She kissed him again, and Devlin conceded defeat. His arms went around her and pulled her closer. At the end of the kiss, he held her and leaned his forehead against hers. "I know you can feel what you are doing to me. We can continue this where I bring you to heights of pleasure your virginal body has only dreamed of. However, I can't promise you that I'll be civil if you change your mind." His hand brushed her body and she gasped. Her eyes widened in awareness and her mouth opened to take in air. "If you call me virginal one more time, so help me Dev, I will slap you silly. I'm trying very hard to entice you." Devlin really looked at her. He could see all the signs that she was ready, but he needed to hear it from her. Besides, she was recovering from concussion. Maybe she wasn't thinking right. "What do you want from me, Chaz?" "Make me yours," she said simply. She pushed off his lap and stood up with her hand out to him. "I can't do it all by myself, so I suggest you cooperate and do the macho thing and take me to bed." She squealed in delight when in one fluid motion, Devlin scooped her up in his arms and headed for the stairs. He stopped only when the bedroom door wouldn't open. Chaz turned and opened the door for him. Still holding her in his arms, Devlin kicked the door shut and in 2 strides reached the bed. Gently, he led her down to her feet. He watched her face for signs of distress. She was recovering from a concussion after all. Chaz understood that she would have to take the initiative. With trembling hands, she reached up to unbutton his shirt. Her fingers fumbled all the way down, but she did it. He helped by pulling his arms out of the sleeves, and she dropped the shirt on the floor with a flourish. She'd always noticed the soft tufts of hair on his chest, and now it was laid bare, within reach. Unable to stop herself, Chaz reached a hand to touch his chest. She was surprised at the texture. It wasn't rough, and she glided her fingers through it. Devlin sucked in a breath as he stood still while she explored. Her fingers played with the curly mass, and then she rubbed her face in it, and then her mouth found a nipple. Her tongue darted out, and he took a deep breath and held it. This was torture, pure and simple. She was tying him in so many knots that it will take days to unravel. "Chaz, do you know what you're doing to me?" he asked in a voice that came from deep in his chest. He took over and kissed her, and she held on as they fell onto the bed. He pulled away to look down at her. She watched as he took off the rest of his clothes. Her eyes grew big as saucers at his body. He kissed her again before she could change her mind. Dev, I don't think this is going to work. I mean, I can't possibly, you know." She looked at his body again and bit her lip. "I know you're scared, but I promise you," he said against her lips, "we will fit each other." "You really think so?" she asked incredulously, taking another peek. "Yes, and now it's my turn," he said. He took her lips in a kiss so devastating, Chastity could only hold on as her body took on a mind of its own. She arched against him in abandon as her blood sang. Devlin rained kisses on her face, the delicate areas of her neck, and when his hand strayed to her breast, Chastity thought she would explode. "Devlin," she breathed. Devlin pulled away to look down at her. "Tell me what you want." Her answer was to lay fully on the bed and raise her arms to him. Their joining was unhurried as Devlin made sure she was comfortable with every kiss and touch. When he had finally joined their bodies, the shock of it was swift and complete. Chastity didn't have time to register the slight discomfort. Then she was moving against him, matching him. They lay there breathing hard and Chastity laughed. "Wow, I wasn't expecting that." Devlin raised up on one elbow. Expecting what? All of it. I'm glad I waited. I got to do this with you. Great. Now I want you to rest because that's what you're supposed to be doing here. He kissed her hard and got out of the bed. He dressed quickly and at the door, he turned to her with a smile. Get some rest. The following few days, they fell into a routine. He would go into work and come home early. Chaz rested and cooked their meals. On the fifth day, while Devlin was out, his house phone rang. She answered. Hello? There was no answer, and then the dial tone. 2 minutes later, the phone rang again. Hello? Is this Devlin Wade's residence? Said a female voice. Yes, who's calling? Asked Chaz. Are you his housekeeper? The woman on the other end asked. Chastity thought it odd this person would think so. No, I'm a house guest. Whom may I say is calling? She tried again. Please tell him Nicole Downing called, the voice said, finally satisfying Chaz's curiosity. Will do. Does he have your number? She asked, playing dumb. Yes, he does. Please tell him that it is very important that he call me tonight. And she hung up. Chaz looked at the receiver in her hand and stuck her tongue out at it. Goodbye to you, too. She could take this all of two ways. One, she could be the jealous girlfriend and not tell him about the call. Or two, she could tell him and feel secure in the fact that Devlin had moved on and loves her. However, there was the slight doubt creeping up in the back of her mind, the one time she had seen them together. Nicole was laughing and Devlin was whining and dining her. They'd been together just a little over 3 months. It wasn't enough time to say they were more than an item. She'd been careful and waited to be sure before she gave herself to him, and now that the deed had been done, would he move on? Chaz shook herself and scolded herself for being insecure. She was sure of her feelings for Devlin, and she was sure of his feelings for her. Devlin arrived shortly after she finished setting the table. He apologized for taking longer than he'd thought. He smiled and sniffed the air. You cooked dinner, he said simply. We can sit down to eat after you've showered and changed if you like, she suggested. He kissed her forehead. Great, I'll be right down. 20 minutes later, he came back down looking relaxed and smelling of soap. He changed into a pair of jeans and a pale blue polo shirt. She relaxed against him when he took her in his arms. There was a problem at the plant. One of my managers ordered the wrong materials we used to make polyester, and then the computers went down, so it took longer to correct the order. Most of the day was shot. It's been a while since I've had mashed potatoes. Takes me back to when my sister and I used to have food fights. We'd throw mashed potatoes at each other, he said wistfully. I would have loved to see you as a boy, returned Chaz. I don't think you would have liked me back then. I used to torment my sister day and night. She hated to have friends over because I used to annoy the hell out of them. Then when I got older, it was her friends that used to annoy me. Really, why would they annoy you? She asked with a knowing smile. I grew up and I was suddenly what they considered a hunk, he said simply. Oh, you mean you were good looking even back then? Yeah, I'm ashamed to say that I knew it and used it. So you don't use it now? Well, let's say that it didn't work when I tried it. Like the first day we met? I don't suppose I'll get any sympathy for a bruised ego? Chaz laughed out loud. No, and I knew it was an act. You are more adorable when you aren't trying. Devlin cleared his throat. What else did you do today besides clean and cook? I played secretary. Nicole called. She wants you to call her tonight. She turned to watch him. She said it was important. Everything is important where she is concerned. I'll call her later. Right now, I have more important things to do. All the while at work, I couldn't concentrate. I kept thinking that asking you here wasn't such a good idea after all. You haven't really rested, and I feel guilty that I've taken advantage of you. I've rested, and I've also learned that in loving you, I've expanded my world. It's been therapeutic in a way. I'm serious, Chaz. How can you recover if you're in my bed doing things that aren't restful? Okay, so now I'll sleep in the guest room. Will that make you feel better? She asked him. No, I didn't mean that. I love you in my bed. I just thought that maybe we shouldn't do the unrestful things more than once per night and not at all in the morning. What do you think? She looked at him and realized that he was serious. Okay, once per night and not at all in the morning. He pulled her to him and rested his forehead against hers. I love you, Chastity. I love you too. The following morning, Dev got up early to fix breakfast for them. Afterwards, he went looking for her. He found her in the guest room brushing her hair. "Are you going somewhere?" he asked. Her packed bags were sitting on the bed. "Yes, I think it's time I go home so you can get back to work. I know you are worried about the plant, and besides, I'm as rested as I'm going to get. I want to check on the center too." "Are you sure?" he asked. He looked disappointed. "I see the doctor today. I know I'm going to get a clean bill of health. Why don't you come over later?" Devlin clasped her waist. "So what you're saying is that you want me to spend the night in your bed so that we can keep our agreement?" he asked. Chaz nodded. "For a minute there, I thought you were turning dense on me." She broke free from him and retrieved her brush to place it in her case. "Take me home so you can go to your office. We can meet later tonight. I'll have dinner waiting, and then you can prove to me that you don't have a genie under your bed." "Fine. How about one for the road?" he asked as he began pulling at her shirt. "Here?" she asked as she helped him with his pants. I was wondering myself if there was a genie in my room. This here is brand new territory we could test out," he replied as her jeans fell to the floor along with the rest of their clothing. Afterwards, resting against his chest, Chaz wondered at her decision to go home. If she stayed with him, it wouldn't interfere with either of their careers, and she would be exactly where she felt she belonged, in Devlin's arms, enveloped by his love. A certain blonde reared her pretty head, and she knew that she would have to step back to allow Devlin some perspective on the situation. She noticed that he'd been declining Nicole's calls, and if he answered them, he'd take them away from her. "Hey, are you awake?" he asked. "Only parts of me," she said, pulling him closer. "Are you having second thoughts?" She poked him in the ribs. "You and your one for the road. I was wondering how I was going to survive without you the rest of the day." "You don't have to go. You could stay. I want you to stay," he suggested earnestly. "Devlin, we both know that I have to do this." She scooted off the bed and began dressing. Devlin took a few more minutes, and then he too got dressed. He wished he could convince her to stay. He was seriously thinking of asking her to move in with him. Like in all things, Chastity had to make up her own mind. Their little idyll was over. If they spent any time together at all, it would be on her terms. He parked the car directly in front of Chaz's building and watched her enter without looking back. The first thing Chaz did was clean her apartment. She'd been away long enough for dust to gather on the furniture. She did her laundry and she showered and shampooed her hair. In her bedroom, she sat down long enough to examine her face. The bruise had healed, and if she wore her hair down, she could hide the fading colors. She sighed and left quickly for her doctor's appointment. Dr. Kinney was professional, and once her checkup was over, he put on his grandfatherly hat and chatted with her about her young man. She was evasive and wouldn't elaborate further than that they were doing fine. He drew some blood and told her that he would call her with the results. On her way back, she stopped for some groceries and planned dinner. Waiting was the worst part for her. She couldn't believe how much she missed him. She flew into his arms at the door. "I missed you so much." "And I kept looking at the clock. The day seemed to crawl by," he said, holding her tightly to him. Dinner went by in a blur, and they worked side by side to clear up. As they worked, she told him about her checkup. Dr. Kinney gave her a clean bill of health and her plan to go back to work on Monday. "It's Friday, so that gives us a few more days before the world intrudes on us again," he told her. She took his hand and led him to the bathroom. "Go shower. I'll be waiting for you." Devlin came out of the shower smelling clean and a scent that was his alone. He climbed into bed with her and clasped her hand. "I hereby declare our agreement null and void. However, we do have a slight problem. I could make a little trip to the local drugstore, or we could grit our teeth and suffer through an evening of television." Chaz smiled at him. She reached over to the nightstand to show him what she'd bought. "I spoke with the doctor and came up with something I am comfortable with. I don't know how I've lived this long without you, Chastity Michaels. I'm so glad we found each other." Their lovemaking was different this time. They made promises and vowed a future together. Devlin's phone rang, waking them up. It was barely 8 in the morning. He answered it, agreed to something, and then ended the call. He told Chaz that he had to meet with Nicole to sign some papers. "Nicole ran a riding academy. We can ride after I'm done with business." Chaz nodded. She was silent as they drove into Suffolk County. The Downing Equestrian Club was large and looked quite busy for a Saturday. She could see the corrals and riding trails. They drove further into the property until they came to some buildings. Devlin parked and got out. He took her hand and they walked in. The lobby was all glass windows and a counter in the middle. A young blonde woman sat behind the counter. She looked up and smiled at Devlin. "Mr. Wade, Miss Downing is expecting you," she said. She announced him, and Nicole came out to greet him. She stopped short, eyeing Devlin's hand holding Chastity's hand. "Devlin, it's good to see you," she said, not once taking her eyes off Chastity. Devlin pulled Chaz closer to him. "Nicole, this is Chastity Michaels. Once we're done here, we'd like to ride a bit." Chaz held her hand out to her. "Pleased to meet you, Ms. Downing." Nicole hesitated slightly and took her hand. "Likewise." Then she turned her attention back to Devlin. "Shall we?" "I'll be right back, darling," he said, and followed Nicole to her office. Chastity went to sit on a chair along the wall across from the counter. The young receptionist kept glancing her way, making Chastity feel decidedly uncomfortable. It had been 20 minutes and she was getting restless. It was apparent the receptionist knew Devlin from when her boss and he were together. She couldn't imagine what was going through her mind now. She was glad that the bruise on her face was almost gone, and with careful makeup, she'd been able to hide what was left. She rarely wore blue jeans, but she looked great in them. Being fit had its advantages, and she was glad that she looked good now. Devlin and Nicole came out of her office laughing. She looked triumphant. "We need a couple of mounts if you have them," he said to her. Nicole looked at Chastity and cleared her throat. "Sure, I can accommodate you." She instructed her receptionist to buzz her stable hand. She led them back outside to a corral. The stable hand was saddling a beautiful black horse. "Oh, how beautiful!" Chaz exclaimed. He led the horse to them. "That he is," he said in a heavy Irish brogue. Chaz looked to Nicole. "Is he available to ride?" "I don't think so. He's just come to us and is really skittish." She turned to the stable hand. "Mike, is he ready to ride?" "Yes, ma'am, but it would have to be a strong rider to ride him," he informed them. Nicole looked Chaz up and down and smiled. "Maybe we can find a more suitable mount for you. Mike, would you get Mr. Wade's usual for him, please?" Chaz fumed silently but smiled. "Miss Downing, if you don't have any more objections, I would like to ride this horse," she said, pointing to the stallion. Devlin stepped in. "Honey, are you sure you can ride him? He looks very spirited." Chaz turned to him with blazing eyes. "Okay, I bet you lunch you can't outride me," she challenged him. Devlin looked at Nicole and winked. "You're on." "Well, that's it for now. Comment whose side you're on. Who do you think will win this race? And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and smash that like button. Bye for now."